presentation, as I say, we will go over freezing your fruits and veggies, what blanching is, what the freezing, what equipment and methods you can use to freeze. We'll also go over canning. We'll go over pressure canning, water bath canning, and canning process and safety. I don't want anybody to be afraid to can, but canning is one of those things, you know, when you go in the kitchen and you wing it and you get real creative with it. Canning it, you can do that with canning, but you really have to follow a few simple basic steps in order to make sure that your food is safe. The other thing we'll go over, and we have some great videos as well, is dehydrating. So the equipment to use when you dehydrate, and the different techniques to dehydrating foods. So, go ahead. Okay, blanching. So blanching is the process. It's done to clean foods, release the flavor, and preserve the color of the food. So before you freeze something, you will boil it for 2 or 3 minutes, and then you'll dip it in ice for 2 or 3 minutes to stop the cooking process. There's a video on this that you'll see as well. But it's important to freezing. You don't want to freeze food that's fresh from the garden or just washed off. You want to blanch it first. It'll make it more colorful. It'll make it taste better. So another thing about freezing is freezing does change the texture of foods that have high water content. Typically foods, some that are eaten fresh, they won't have the same crunch. Like an apple won't have the same crunch to it. Try freezing some lettuce, high water content food, and you're going to get something that you could probably put in your smoothie, and that's about it. So freezing, depending upon the methods you use, you can preserve your food. You can freeze for months if you use the good freezing techniques. So here's what we use. Basically, a lot of people do this. They use the freezer bags with a little straw. So in other words, they'll blanch the food, put it in the freezer bag. And there's a difference between freezer bags and food storage bags. The freezer bags are a little thicker. It's very inexpensive. You can open them, take what you need, and reclose them. But they don't have that good a short shelf life. Even though you close it and you suck the air out of it, there's still a little bit of air in there. And it's not a really good quality plastic. So it's okay to use. But it's not going to last all that long. You get what you pay for. Some people now are using the handheld vacuum sealers. I don't know, $20 or something. You can open them up and you can close them. And you have a fixed bag size. On the most expensive one over here, the Food Saver like this, stuff lasts a very long time. You can actually create your own bag size, but they're expensive. This thing costs about $159. I'll show you this and how this works. Does anybody have one? So these come in rolls, like a roll of paper towels, right? And you put them in, and you cut them to size, as much as big or small as you want. And then you stick them in and you seal them up. So that's how they work. And you see they're very thick. And they have special containers that you can stick this on the container, and it will, a little straw thing, and it will suck all the air out of it. So this is a Food Saver. They have a couple of brands of these, but I just want to pass this around so you can see how thick that plastic is compared with the Ziploc bag that you might have. Go ahead, Eric. Okay, so foods you really don't want to freeze, okay, because they're very high water content. Unless you want to freeze them for making a smoothie, I guess that's the only way you could probably do it. Celery, cucumbers, lettuce, raw potatoes, you wouldn't want to do it. Radishes, sprouts, salad greens, you don't want to do that. Fruits, apples, grapefruit, grapes, unless you want to take the frozen grapes and put them in a cocktail, you know, in a little cocktail straw. Those are tasty. Lemons, limes, and oranges, they'll get mushy and they won't be good. But you can freeze the citrus rinds if you want. Zests. Watermelon also, too high water content. And there are some herbs that don't really take that well to freezing raw. The basil, for example. Basil, a lot of people mix the basil up and they put some oil in it, put it in ice cube trays, freeze it, take it out and put them in little baggies. But just plain basil won't hold up very well. So, okay, Eric.
Today we're going to be freezing summer squash. First, I've already washed the squash, so we're going to slice it now. Cut that piece off, and I like to slice them, and then I cut them in half. Already did quite a bit over here, and there's lots to go. So you just slice them, and I cut them in half also. Now we're going to blanch them. The water's all boiling and ready. So I'm just going to add some in here. To the steamer basket. And as you can see, I have yellow and green squash. I just mix them. So I'm going to cover it, and I'm going to blanch this for about 3 minutes. Okay, the 3 minutes is up. It's finished blanching. So now I'm going to take it and just take the basket out, and I already have my ice water all cooled and with ice in it, all ready to cool it down. So let's add it to the ice water. Put it under the water, and then we're going to let this sit for 3 minutes also to cool down. Okay, 3 minutes is up. So now squash is all cooled down, so I'll just strain it out. Oh, it's all nicely in the strainer. There we go. Give it a little shake. Now I'm just going to dry it off slightly on the paper towels. So I'm just going to dry it off. Now that they're dried slightly, I'm going to add them into the Ziploc bags, and I dated zucchini 2011. So I just add what I would be using. That looks about enough. A meal for two. I'm squeezing as much of the air out as I can. There we go. These are ready to freeze. And as you can see, I have much more to do. I will show you in a future episode how I cook with these. So, until next time, bye!
Yeah, that's basically the way you do it if you want to freeze your squash. As I say, I prefer the other method, this method to freezing, because I already have the unit. I've had it for 10 years, so it's a little, like it's $150, but to me it's well worth it. So for canning, okay, so water bath canning versus pressure canning. Water bath canning you can do for tomatoes, tomato sauce, plain tomato sauce or tomato sauce with herbs. You can do it when you pickle, have a pickled vegetable, or pickle vegetable relish, zucchini relish, and zucchini and tomato relish, or cucumber relish. And you can use your fruits, jams, jellies, and whole fruits. You can use a water bath canning. And I'm going to tell you because those foods are high acid foods. So high acid foods, you don't need a pressure canner. The pressure canner is there so to make sure that all the air is removed and make sure that the bacteria is killed. So pressure canning, you can go out in the garden, you get your onions, whatever you want, make a nice stew with your jalapenos and your fresh tomatoes, make a nice stew, your onions, and put some meat in it, and you can certainly can it. You have to use a pressure canner when you do meat. Beets, carrots, green beans, and tomato sauce when you have chunky, non-acid loving, non-acidic vegetables. You really should pressure can. People tell me all the time, well, my grandmother did it this way, and well, that's fine, but I have to teach the safety first, right? And safety first tells me that any vegetable that's not a high acid vegetable should be pressure canned. Now, tomatoes, we have a video on this as well, the tomatoes. You actually should add a little bit of vinegar or lemon juice in them to actually increase the acidity a little bit, because a lot of times the tomatoes that we grow nowadays, because of the way we like them, we don't like things too bitter, too acidic. So they actually grow more alkaline tomatoes now. So just to be safe, instead of using the litmus paper to make sure it's at a pH of 4.5, people just put a little bit of a tablespoon of vinegar or lemon juice in the jars. Don't be afraid of it. It doesn't alter the taste at all. Yes?
But you could freeze it too,
You
right?
freeze it, yeah, of course.
I'm just curious, is there a reason why you would do one or the other?
Why you can?
Yeah.
There's a reason why you can't. I'm going to tell you why. Because I remember a few years ago, I worked at Genzyme, and a few of my friends lived in Worcester. I still remember this. They lost their power for 2 weeks. Everything was gone. When you can, you are, and sometimes my freezer's such a mess, I can't even find stuff in there. But of course, the mason jars are very neat up in my cabinet, so I do both. I do both, definitely do both. So another thing is, the beets, I'm telling you, are not a high acid food. I love my beets. I just love them. So they're not a high acid food. So they have to be pressure canned. However, if you add vinegar, or you want pickled beets or pickled carrots or any of that, then you can pull up a recipe and use a water bath canner. A water bath canner is just an old lobster pot or a big pasta pot. Even that pot that lady was using for the zucchini can be used for water bath canning. A pressure canner, let me show you this. A pressure canner, on the other hand, there's two different kinds. This is kind of an old-fashioned kind, and it has weights. That's how you unscrew it. It screws on. It has weights that go on the top, depending upon what you're actually canning. Depends on how many of these weights you have to use. So this is the old-fashioned kind. They do have the digital kind that you plug in, and those are more expensive. I think this costs like $50 or something. Not much. But this is the one I use, and it suits me fine. Couple of things about canning is you have to can. These are the two size jars I use. I use this basically for spaghetti sauce, for a meal, and I'll use this for my green beans or carrots or beets or something like that. They have little tiny ones. I don't know what people use those little tiny ones for. My goodness, they were big baby food. That's about it. But there's different sizes, and some are really funky that you can use to, for give away for Christmas gifts. People like this stuff. So, but basically, there's two kinds of lids. There's a wide mouth lid and there's a regular lid. And these lids, and I've talked about this a lot at the classes. These lids are two-piece, right? And you can buy a package of the lids for like $1.97. They have all this stuff at Walmart. So you use these lids, this combination, only once. And then you can use this cover for your leftovers or what have you, but you don't can with it again because it may be defective because of the heat and all that. So you just buy new ones each time, new covers each time you can.
New rings as well?
All this new. It costs $1 for I think 10 of them. Well, it costs $1.97 at Walmart. So they're not expensive. Will they work? Will they poison you? Will air seep in or bacteria get in? Maybe, probably not. But that's the safe way that I was taught to do it. So
I was always taught to just buy the new lids, not the rings. Because the lids, once you use the lids, you can't use it again, right?
I don't use either one.
I would never use a lid twice.
Yeah.
The ring I would use, but the lid I wouldn't use.
Well, and anyways, after a while, if you do use them, I use them. I don't like Tupperware and all that stuff for leftovers, so they get rusty too. So they don't even these don't last too long if you wash them up. So.
If you save your old mayonnaise jars, they fit on top of those.
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
not the jars, the caps for your mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise? Oh, cool. Okay, that's good to know.
Use
Yeah.
that
Very good. So here's the equipment for doing the canning. This is a pressure canner over here, and here you get a little kit. I think it's made by Ball as well. This is when you can. You get all these fancy little things. You can pick this is used to pick the jars up, and this is a magnet, so if you have to, pick up the lids or what have you. And this is a special tool used to measure your head space, because food expands, so different foods have different head space. This is a quarter of an inch, half an inch, 3/4 of an inch, and an inch. So you can measure how high you actually put this in. There's a very, very important couple of tools missing. One is the ladle, and the other is the funnel. So I don't know what happened to them.
For years, we canned tomatoes the way Grandma taught us, using the water bath method. This involved packing sterilized jars with hot, cooked fruit and boiling for a designated amount of time, usually an hour or more for tomatoes. The water bath method is considered safe for tomatoes with a pH of 4.6 or less. But not all tomatoes are that acidic. Some of the more recently developed strains of tomatoes are low in acid. You can't safely tell by looking or tasting to see if your tomatoes are acidic enough for safe water bath canning. To make sure your tomatoes are at their acidic peak, can them freshly picked. Tomatoes that have sat around for a day or more tend to lose their acid. Bruises and other damage also reduce a tomato's acidity. Late season tomatoes, stressed from shorter days and cooler temperatures, also tend to be less acidic. Grandma also taught us the dangers of improper canning. The bacterium that results from improper canning methods is deadly. So what can you do, short of breaking out the pressure cooker, to make sure your canned tomatoes are safe? Increase the acidity in the jar by adding citric acid or lemon or lime juice. A tablespoon of bottled lemon juice or 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid per pint should do it. Then proceed as usual, keeping everything clean and hot just the way Grandma did. The same procedure should be used when canning homemade tomato sauce or salsas. To protect you and your family, always follow canning directions to the letter and err on the side of caution. Your grandmother would want it that way.
That's the main thing about canning. I think everybody should do it, and it's a piece of work because, as I say, you really have to batch stuff up.
Can we go back to canning?
Yes, please, yes.
So the lids. So I was always taught by my grandmother. You take the lids, you put them in a pan of water, and you pour water from your canning bath in there, and you let them sit for 15 minutes. Is that what we're still doing?
This is basically the process that I use, and you can see this when you if you go on the Bell website. First thing you do is you boil all your jars in. Some people use the dishwasher on the hottest setting, but I boil just like Grandma did in a big pan. I have a lot of pans, so I boil them all, the lids, everything, and then in another pan I will start cooking my spaghetti sauce down or what have you according to the instructions. Then I will, carefully, while they're still warm, line up on a towel all my empty mason jars, fill them up, and put the lids on, not tight all the way, just like that. Then you put them in the canner, pressure canner or water bath canner or whatever, and you fill it with as much water as the instructions tell you to. And when you take it out, you'll hear them go. You hear them all click in, okay? And some don't. And if they don't, and you don't see a little indentation here, use them up in a week. Put them in the fridge. They're fine. They're just not going to last you 10 years, obviously, right? So I go to fairs and country fairs and 4-H exhibits and all that, and they have some presentations about displays on canning, and they show their stuff like this. You can actually put the can like this and shake it. Nothing's going to happen because it's vacuum sealed. So that's basically how I do it. So dehydrating, that's taking the water out of something, and water and air are your enemies. So it's taking the air out of something. Fruits, veggies, herbs, meats, everything can be dehydrated, depending upon if you have a good quality dehydrator. This is mine. It's not a good quality dehydrator. I should get one, but we do have a video on it. And this is what it looks like. And I do a lot of herbs because they're fairly quick. You have to do them low so they don't burn. But I have so much oregano that grows. Every couple of years I have parsley that won't quit. Of course my mint grows every year. I have to keep it contained or it'll take over my yard, let alone the garden. And lemon, basil, all that. So anyway, I do have, each tray, you place the, whatever you're trying to dry, and, you know, single layered in here. And then, you know, depending upon what the recipe says, there's a little, you know, can do it hotter or cooler. If in doubt, keep it low so you don't, you know, you don't burn anything, especially if it's something fragile like herbs. But you can dehydrate a lot of stuff. There's not to confuse dehydrating, which takes away, I believe it's 90 to 93% of the moisture of a product, of food, whereas freeze drying takes away more than that, or like 97% of the liquid of something. But freeze, and they sell them, the dehydrators for home use cost about $1,900. So I'm fine with my dehydrating. And when you dehydrate, you can then store them in a mason jar, or you can store them in one of those sealer bags, or what have you, to keep the dust off, whatever. But that'll last a good long time as well. So
sun-dried tomatoes, they're not sun-dried tomatoes, they're dehydrated tomatoes, right?
yeah, you can dry them in the sun, but
That'd be kind of hard.
yeah. No, I mean it's the way they used to do it.
Like rot and,
Yeah, they would.
yeah.
Yeah, you
I
put
put it in my
dehydrated.
car, actually.
Dehydrated.
In the back
And
window.
you roll up all the windows and you put them on a tray
There you
lined
go.
with oil.
Oh my god,
It
that's,
smells so good,
oh, it does.
but there's not much space in the car.
And then you put olive oil and you
I don't
put
put
it
anything on them.
Yeah.
Nice
There you go.
Awesome.
day.
What about using your oven? I mean, I don't have a dehydrator, could you use
Oven
yours?
goes to 200. This one goes down to
Well, so my oven I can get
95
to,
to 160.
I can get my under
200.
to 100. I can keep my oven at 100 degrees.
Oh, okay, by opening the door?
No, it's got a setting, it's called hold. I have an electric
Oh,
laptop,
okay.
it's got a hold thing.
How long do you have to do things in here?
It all depends on the
I
product.
can do days.
I can do.
Really?
It could be. This is not a good
Money
one.
my
We have a
way.
video I want to share that has a really good dehydrator on it, and you can see that. But this one, basically, I use for herbs. But you can see the real powerful Excalibur, they call it. So you'll see that you can do anything in there.
Hi, I'm going to do a video on dehydrating, storage of dehydrated food, and cooking of dehydrated food. First I'm going to start off with the dehydrator that you need to have, or one similar to it. And what I have right here is the Excalibur, and I like this dehydrator because it has the fan in the back. That way the air flows across the trays rather than from the top or the bottom where the air flows up. So this is actually a better process when it flows across this way. I like this brand because it's very easy to use. And on the top you can see it tells you what settings that you would put on for what vegetables and what fruit, and if you're doing meats or what have you. Okay? And there's a lot of things that you need to do prior to dehydrating. Some foods need to be prepped. So I'm going to go through a series of fruits and vegetables that I have here. And over here, you have, this is ginger. And I use a meat slicer to slice all my vegetables and stuff so I get the same consistency, the same thickness when I'm dehydrating. And here is undehydrated sliced ginger. And next to it I have the chopped peppers, green peppers. And next to that I have the broccoli. Now, on the front of the broccoli here is broccoli that has not been steamed. So this is raw broccoli, it has not been processed. In the back here, it has been steamed. So if you notice the color difference, it's not real light green, it's a dark bright green, and that's just about the consistency that you want when you're going to dehydrate it. So you want it to look more like this right here. Okay? And over here what you have, these are my sliced potatoes. I slice them first, and then I steam them, or actually boil them. at a very low boil so they don't fall apart. And the reason you need to process your potatoes prior to dehydrating them, because if you don't, they'll turn black and they're going to look like that. So the way you pre-treat them is, here I have carrots and broccoli, and I'm going to dump those on ice. Those have been pre-treated, so they've been blanched. So you need to blanch those on the ice and stop the process there. And then I'm going to take the potatoes, I'm going to do the same thing with them, I'm going to steam them. And I'm not going to steam them all the way through where they're mushy. I'm going to make them so they're somewhat crisp. I just want to lock the enzymes in so that the starches stay. Okay. So what you do is you will steam these until they're somewhat soft but not mushy. After the process, if you notice, they're going to be like this, translucent, like this. And that's a good potato. Now this is a yellow potato right here. And that potato, even though it looks real yellow, when you cook it, it will turn back to the original color. Same thing with cauliflower. Cauliflower, when you process it, will turn, after you dehydrate it, will turn like a brown. But not to worry, because once you cook it again, it's going to turn white again. All right, here I have the chopped potatoes. Now, this is something you'd use if you're going to do home fries or what have you. You would use a chopped potato. Okay, and then over here we have, this is your sweet potato. That also has to be processed in order to lock in the enzymes and the starches. So here you have what it would look like, the consistency before you dehydrate it. So it's going to look like this. Okay, it's going to be flexible, and you can put it on the tray and it will dry out. And when it does dry out, when they do dry out, they're going to look like this. And this is the sweet potato that has been dehydrated. And when you cook this, it will turn right back into a sweet potato, and you can't tell the difference. It actually tastes better sometimes, I think, than it does prior to that. All right, here we have lemons. And the lemons, like I said, I use a meat slicer, so the consistency all looks the same, and it's a lot faster that way too. And you don't have to worry about cutting your fingers as often. And next to it I have oranges. There's no processing involved in this one. You would just put this on the dehydrator tray and dehydrate that. You have your tomatoes here, no processing needed. Just slice it and put it on the tray. You have your zucchini and your summer squash. Now the summer squash, you might want to steam it just for a few minutes, just so that the skin on the outside becomes more tender, so that when you do rehydrate it, it's not tough. But the zucchini, I don't process that. And if you're going to chop up your zucchini, like put it in a food processor and chop it up real small and dehydrate it, that way you can put it in a jar and use it that way for zucchini bread. So I would chop it prior to the dehydrating, and then I would smooth it out on the tray. Here we have carrots. These carrots on the front are raw. These carrots in the back have been steamed. Not in water, just steamed. And what I'm going to do is, what you do with this is you would steam it. And these are baby carrots. And I purchased these on sale for 99 cents a pound. And that's pretty cheap. I like the baby carrots because they're tender. Now, I chop them about like this. Okay? And this is the whole one that's already been processed. Now, on the carrots, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to spray a little lemon juice on it, because this will help keep the color so they don't turn brown and look yucky. And so some people will use ascorbic acid, which is a vitamin C. It's 1.5 tablespoons per gallon of water. And you would soak anything that you process in this for about 2 minutes. I don't use it. I just use plain old lemon juice. There's another way too, is you can take 1/3 honey, 1 cup of water, boil it, let it cool, and then you can put your bananas and apples and stuff in there. I don't use that either, because the honey, I think, makes the vegetables and the fruits, when you do use it this way, sticky. And I don't want my processed food to be sticking together. Okay, so here you have, I'm going to show you this here. This is what the carrot size looks like here. Okay, now that right there, that carrot right there, that's what it looks like after it's dehydrated, the chopped one. Now, you can dehydrate the carrots just like this. These little baby carrots. You can put them on and dehydrate them just like this. And when they're done, that's what that carrot will look like. So when you rehydrate the carrot will come out just like this after you rehydrate it. It's hard to believe that this little thing is going to look like this again, but it will. Okay? So over here, next we have peppers. We have jalapeno peppers, red peppers, and green peppers again. Now, you can do the green peppers without steaming them, or I broil these just for a short period of time. And you can do it this way. If you want to, you don't have to process it over there. But the reason I do it this way is because I like that roasted flavor on the peppers. So what you do is you put them skin side up, and you leave them in there just enough to blister the skin. As you can see right here, the skin is all blistery. Okay? I do take a little bit of Pam, the only time I use it, and just lightly spray it prior to putting it in the oven. And I usually put it in around 400 degrees, and I leave it in there until it blisters. And when you put it in the hydrator, you're going to turn it around like this. Okay? You're going to want the skin side down. So when you put it in the oven, you're going to want the skin side up, and when you put it in the dehydrator, skin side down. Okay. Here I have spinach. Spinach is great. You can take spinach and you can fill up your trays with the spinach, and it will come out nice and dry. And if you come over here, I'll show you what the spinach looks like. This is the spinach when it's been dehydrated. It's great, like if you're going to make spinach dip and so on and so forth. You always have fresh spinach right there at your hands, and you don't have to worry about running out to the store and getting it.
How do you rehydrate everything? Just like...
You add a little bit of water, a little bit at a time, and then you'll know when it's the same size. So it's really quite simple. But you know what people do, right? Think about it. You have your celery you grow in your garden. You have your onions, your carrots and all that. You cut everything up, you dehydrate it, then you put them in those nice layers in your mason jar, right? And you put some rice or something in there, and that's a chicken soup. You give it. I've seen those in the store. They cost like $10 in the store. So that
soup in a jar.
Soup in a jar.
Put everything you need in one
all
jar.
Pretty though, all layered up, real pretty.
How long does it take to dehydrate something?
It all depends on what you're dehydrating. It all depends on the power of the dehydrator and the temperature that you're using. They're all. This is not an Excalibur. Trust me, she has an Excalibur. Just to let you know, Eric and I have we have two Facebook pages. Facebook groups that we have. Mine has over 40,000 people from around the world gardening all kinds of things. Eric's is basically vegetables. I've got everything from rose bushes to mango trees on mine. And we also have a YouTube channel. We're going to have to really going to have to put more content up there. But we have all these links. We have several PowerPoint presentations as well. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.